Good afternoon, everybody. I am Rose and I'm coming on Instagram Live from Joint Space today. I'm one of the coaches here and I work primarily with overweight, obesity and lifestyle disease. And I'm going to talk as much as I can about nutrition and stress, particularly when life is stressful, because that's actually my daily job, dealing with stress management and behavior around food and nutrition. Food and nutrition is a relationship to yourself, and relationships of all sorts, by their very nature, are super stressful. So what we're actually talking about, regardless of our situation at the moment, which is causing more stress and more uncertainty, is indeed a very stressful topic for people who struggle with food and food behavior. It's strange talking into an open space, so if you're coming on live to join us and you have questions, do make sure to ask them so I can answer them. And if you're watching later or watching right now, I hope you're not too exhausted after last night. I think we're all feeling it. So to start, what I'm going to talk about is two states that we generally fall into under chronic stress or shock or prolonged stress. And the first one would be decreased appetite, where ghrelin is blunted. And there will be different categories that you feel at different stages. So you may be familiar with experiencing a shock that would have blunted your appetite, and it almost acts as a magical diet where you don't feel like eating. So this is one type of stressor, one reaction to the type of stressor you're going through. And the other behavior that you would fall into is overeating or using food to numb out feelings. And that's where we get mixed signals and leptin is not actually working so well. With prolonged stress and prolonged overwhelm, you'll have sleep and stress causing problems, and then leptin is affected. And with the opposite, where ghrelin is blunted and you're in shock. And I think with this situation, it's been said by many, especially if you follow Helen Farmer, she's fantastic on Dubai Eye. Not everybody is in the same situation. So while we're all in this together, people's response is different. So you may be in a state of huge fear and going through that decreased appetite and not eating really well. Or you might be in the mixed signals where leptin isn't signaling well and you're overeating or trying to comfort or numb or relieve yourself. So what I'm going to try and do is give you education on this. And this is really like knowledge is power. When I deal day to day with clients, I do look at maladaptive eating practices. We look at food behavior that has been driven and existing for years and years, which brings on lifestyle disease and, generally affects our quality of life. I think having the knowledge and the education around this, as the time is prolonging in the state of uncertainty that we're in, that if you have tools that you can work with, you don't need to start adding your health to something else that you have to deal with right now. So with the overwhelm and when it's prolonged, you'll also have cortisol, and that will pull the glucose or mobilize glucose in your bloodstream. The two major things I want to say about the two different types I spoke about, whether it's decreased appetite you're facing, this can backfire and you will be running on hormonal surges, but it can backfire in terms of being over hungry later on, or that you start hitting a wall physically. So if you have decreased appetite, try to make sure you are eating regularly. And then if it's the other one where we're starting to use food as comfort or numbing or relief, this is where your blood will be taken all into your digestion system and you feel lethargic. And lethargy is something you don't want to feel when you're trying to make really good decisions, or you have to think critically. If you've got kids at home and you're homeschooling them, or you've to, everything has changed. So you need to have your frontal lobe on board to make really good decisions. And nobody is perfect. This is not a do not eat for comfort, start eating if you're not eating. I pulled two real life examples of what we term as eating that wouldn't be, say, pre-planned or I don't want to say what we plan our eating, but where we're not conscious about our eating. So I got this packet of brownie shots, which was a gift. They are made in Ireland, so I'm going to give them a thumbs up just because they're from my country. But they come in with the vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, wheat-free, and there were little shots. So I wouldn't generally buy this. It does not make your nutrition worse or better. However, the ingredients were quite good, but for the packet, it came in at a whopping 451 calories. Only one has 18 calories. I did intend having a couple of them, but the packet kind of disappeared. So many people are, they can easily have eating that isn't planned or that, numbs us out. I wasn't numb after eating this. But having the knowledge that, it's 451 calories. If I continue to do that over the course of a whole week, then I might start to look at my weight may not remain the same, but I'm not so worried about my weight. I would be more worried about the effect on my blood glucose, how lethargic I would feel, or is there room for real nutrition that I need in terms of fiber, carbohydrates, fats, and protein. On the scale of a little bit more processed, I had one other, especially as Easter's coming up and Eid's coming up. This little box looks super, super innocent, and they were eggs. And over the course of 2 days, I demolished 12 of them. And I'm being honest here and real because I don't think it's my place to come on and tell you what you should or shouldn't eat, or do not eat comfort food if you need comfort food right now. Tony's chocolate eggs came in at 816 calories over 2 days. And if I take, and that's just 150 grams of chocolate, it's not a huge amount. If we take that, it's a huge portion of your daily caloric load. So this is where, I have my own education and I really know, okay, that was a good 20-25% of my daily calories. I'm not going to worry about it because it's not a daily habit, and I have really good tools for dealing with stress, which is my next point. If we have gone into the phase of under eating, overeating, what we're looking to do is try to reset our leptin, which is quite difficult at the moment with sleep patterns. If we have overuse of digital devices, which unfortunately we do, putting them out of the bedroom at night or using apps to switch them off so that you can reduce your stress load, but also digital eye strain, which affects your ability to sleep well. And then finding ways, if you are woken up during the night, finding ways during the day to have downtime where you might do breathing exercises, meditation, like the other meditation sessions that are part of the Joint Space community. And then finding ways to increase your dopamine, not by the food. They did really increase my dopamine. I just wish I had dipped them in a cup of tea to make them melty. But going outside, for example, when it's safe to do so, making sure you have exposure to sunlight, making sure you have adequate physical activity. And because I work in the movement space, I'm not trying to sell you more physical activity, but now more than ever will be a time that you never and really do not think about reducing your physical activity, because you need to get rid of the discharge that's in your body. And the best way to do that is by consciously moving. The same way that when we're eating, we want to consciously eat instead of subconsciously consuming. So where we're over consuming something that is causing too much stress, we want to just bring back in our conscious awareness that I might need to increase my dopamine from other sources. Sunlight, one that I use hugely is a to-do list. If you have time, and rather than ruminating over what can or cannot happen or what you did or did not eat, try to knock some things off your to-do list, and you'll feel much more in control of what you can control. So that will be where you start to rebalance the signals in your body in terms of ghrelin, leptin, and dopamine. Any questions coming up on the chat? No? Okay. So I'm going to continue. Along the lines of food, it is good to have, there is one point I want to talk about is food scarcity, which has come up with some clients I've worked with. So non-processed types of food, it's great to have plenty of these snacks available rather than lots of the processed ones. Food scarcity is something that will be there regardless of this situation. Now, it will come up and change for people as income levels may start to fluctuate. But if people suffer with the fear of food scarcity, this can be driven from much earlier times of how they grew up, what country they grew up in, culturally, or simply parental figures restricting food. So food scarcity is something that comes up in times of prolonged stress. You may have experienced that in COVID, and you may experience that now. Working with somebody who can do CBT therapy, or a nutritionist or a dietitian, is super helpful, or a psychologist that's informed around food, because that falls into maladaptive eating behaviours, and basically good behaviour patterns around food and health. So food scarcity is something that is very real for people, and I work with it long term in terms of healing from living with obesity and overweight. The other thing I really want to mention is that we are living in somewhere that is completely and utterly safe. So what we're feeling right now is an amplification of what was already there. And this is what I see with clients that I work with. If there's previous food behaviors, they can be amplified. If there's previous stress mechanisms that are maybe not as well healed or not as well adapted, they will be amplified when there is a bigger level of uncertainty. So it is a really great time to look at, where am I suffering and what do I need to do and what kind of help do I need? That may be, you might have time to pick up things like a workbook like this, the Binge Eating Prevention Program. It's a 12-week program, but I usually go through this over a course of 2 years, as people can take years to overcome maladaptive eating habits. If you want a simple read, How to Eat and Still Lose Weight is a great book, and I love it because the opening introduction is in Al Ain College Hospital, and they actually have a fantastic quote on the art of war, which is it's a coincidence, but I picked up this book this morning coming out and I thought it was fantastic. I've read it a few times and used a lot of their tips, or proven programs like this, because as I said, one of the major things here is whatever is going on, it's an amplification of what would be in line with your eating behavior. And sometimes we can just numb that out, we can cover it up, but it is going to be there. And if you're on GLP medication, it's exactly the same, that we start to see, unless the underlying and undercurrency of problems that have driven food behavior and environment, they stay there unless they're actually worked out in. So that's just a point that came up when I was thinking about what would I talk about stress and food. And then the other one is that I'm going to ask everyone to just have regular eating patterns. If you really want to let your body be stress-free, a regular eating schedule that suits you best, which is usually 3 meals and 1 or 2 snacks, in the line of research, is actually one of the best ways that you can eat. If you prefer fasting or intermittent fasting, by all means, but whatever mechanism or structure you're using, it shouldn't feel stressful to you, and it shouldn't be restrictive, and you should have all nutrients in your diet. So taking out carbohydrates, taking out fats, taking out protein, any one of them seriously depletes your micronutrient profile in your body. So I would suggest that you eat wholesome foods and regular meals that leave you satiated, and also with a huge impact on or focus on fiber. The Mediterranean diet is one of the most heavily researched patterns of eating, and their plant diversity is the best for gut microbiome. And whether it's from chronic stress and long-term stress like we have here, it has been going on now for a few weeks, your gut microbiome and your ability to rest and digest may be affected. If you do find your digestion affected, I suggest movement in sunlight, because that is one of the best ways to get your gut mobilizing food. And just be aware if you are beginning to struggle. I've seen people who are struggling with their digestion and they're not having regular bowel movements. This will have an effect on your health. If you are struggling with gut health or digestion, then definitely being very aware of processed foods and all of that is crucial, and that you have less of them and that you have more real food. And I'm probably going to wrap it up on this, that you need more real food in your diet, and you need more real meals. And restricting or putting in special foods, or thinking that one is better than the other, or going gluten-free or vegan, there is not enough data to suggest that. So I would suggest you eat what makes you feel good, and that you have knowledge. And you can always reach out to us and actually ask what would be healthy and not so healthy for you. But in general, I would ask that you nourish your body, you eat with your family, you put down your phone when you have your meals, you chew well, because your connection to your social circle and your ability to nourish yourself without restricting or over consuming has a way, way greater effect on your overall health than choosing one ingredient or one supplement. And I hope all of that makes sense. I don't think I have anything else to cover. Is there any questions?
Yes, we have 2 questions.
Okay.
One is, what about trying to build muscle or keep performance high when the nervous system is dysregulated?
Oh, that's such a great question. I love it, because I was really happy in week 1. My numbers shot up in the gym. I was able to lift a lot heavier, which meant I had a lot more hormones driving my nervous system. That flipped out on week 2 and week 3. So what I would say to you is, your sleep is critical. Your regular consumption of nutrition is critical. Pay particular attention to not sabotaging your diet. Protein and carbohydrate are your best friends. And with performance, I would keep your training sessions regular and maybe track your numbers. Add in a breathing exercise before and post your training sessions, and maybe get a little bit more access to sunlight to help you feel regulated, and less phone time. So it also is a good time to train, because we have a little bit more time where we're not under as much pressure. So keep training. And when all of this does end, you do want your body and your mind to be strong, so we can start to live again.
Question number 2 was, what about coffee?
Coffee's great. Coffee is great. It's great until you get to a certain point. So coffee is actually a really healthy food. There's fiber in coffee. I would just be conscious that you're not over consuming from your normal amount. So if your normal is 1 to 3 cups, keep it in that range. If you're using it as a supplement or something to keep you awake and to keep you activated during the afternoon, it's your body's exhausted. So maybe do a yoga nidra, or make sure you're hydrated properly. So coffee, I've absolutely nothing against, but it can get to the stage where people are consuming too much and it becomes a major diuretic. And when I say too much, 4, 6, 9 cups a day, it's where it's chronic. But if you're drinking 1 to 3 cups, absolutely no problem. Use it and enjoy it.
We have one more question. Can modern lifestyles make us starve at a cellular level, even if we eat enough calories?
Yes. At a cellular level, you're talking about the mitochondrial density and mitochondrial health of your cells. So the number one factor here is how you breathe and how you sleep. We don't have enough data to show that our diet is going to improve the cellular health, but how we connect to other people, how we thrive in open spaces like nature, our exposure to nature, our exposure to water, green areas, and how we're breathing when we're exercising and living. There is a huge amount of data on this. So modern lifestyle, in the car, on the phone, that prolongs stress. And with prolonged stress, you'll have this tensing of your upper airways, and you'll have dehydration because your mouth will probably be open when you are looking at your phone, consuming information. Being indoors is probably the most, I don't like the word dangerous, the most unhealthy prolonged behavior you can have. And I'm aware that some people have been indoors for a week and there is no reason for this, because I feel truly safe, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody's feelings around this, but our government has made it very clear that we are safe, and being outside is one of the best ways you can improve your mitochondrial density. So combating modern lifestyle, whoever asked that question, it's absolutely fantastic. We could have 10 series on this question. Is that all the questions? Okay, we've got 20 minutes. If you haven't joined our community, Chris and Pav, the founders of the clinic here, have built a really, really nice community. You can join on WhatsApp. We have live Instagram sessions daily in the morning with the other practitioners in the afternoon, and there are activations on at the weekends. They're all free of charge, and we're more than happy to give out whatever information that can help you during these times. And thank you for joining if you have joined, and have a wonderful, peaceful day.
We have one more question. Yes. Is the harm caused by food scarcity more about the lack of calories or the lack of essential nutrients?
This is a really good question. Only a really good blood test would actually give you the nutrient or your nutrient profile in your body. The food scarcity, it can fall into two categories. So we've got real food scarcity. Not everybody's in the same boat. So food scarcity on a global level, you'll have it in different countries, but different populations. In Dubai, it may be that, as I said, income has changed and they really have to think about cheaper forms of food, or they may not have access to, what becomes expensive, like really good fruits and vegetables and so on. And then the scarcity can be a mental component where we literally get afraid, are we going to have food scarcity? And we saw this 3 weeks ago when people were overbuying and over-shopping. This can be driven from, I want to say, an emotional place, which would be adapted to how our environments were formed and how we grew up, etc., or what we have been through in the past. In regards to the nutrient profile, absolutely, if you have a lack of calories, you eventually will have a lack of nutrients in your body, and you will suffer where your body starts to go into muscle mass. And somebody had asked about building muscle mass. Adequate calories are fundamental. And that is why we do see problems on GLP medications where the dose might be too high and it has interfered with appetite too much, and we're not getting enough caloric load into the body to build muscle density when the time is right. So you do need adequate calories for your nutrient profile. You also need good food. But if you pay attention to things like your relationships, your exposure to sunlight, the amount of sleep you get, how happy you are, those factors can help a lot of the processes in your body, because we can have the healthiest person eating the best diet and taking all the supplements, but if they're miserable, bitter and resentful and then living in prolonged stress, they're not going to be healthy. Okay, is that it? Yeah. Okay, make sure to join our community. And I also want to say thank you to Danvi, our social media manager. She's absolutely amazing putting these sessions on every day.